Hi you guys, welcome back to the desk corner. Welcome to a new video. In today's video, we are going to go through and talk about all of the art supplies that I currently own. So I've recently done a couple of different videos showing you guys some of my art supplies. I did one about all the colored pencils I own, so yes, we are going to include those in today's video, but less in depth, of course, since I already have a separate video dedicated to that. I've also got a couple videos here and there where I clean my desk a little bit, so this isn't going to be a desk tour video. I think I'd like to do one of those eventually once I organize it a little bit better. So rather what I'm going to do is I'm going to organize this into different parts and show you guys all of the supplies I have for those specific parts. Hopefully this goes well. There might be a few outliers that I'll have to show you at the end if I forget about them, but that's okay. Let's just go ahead and jump into it because this is not going to be a short video. Let's start simply. We're going to go ahead and start with erasers. So I have a giant box of Pentel white erasers, so that way I never run out of them. This is the one I'm currently using, and this is how much of it I've gone through so far. So there's that. I don't think I'm ever going to run out of these. We've also got kneaded erasers, the one I'm currently using, and I've got a couple more packs of these in my drawer. I just didn't want to pull all of them out. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But the real star of the show here are these Tombow Mono Zero erasers. I talk about them incessantly on my channel, but that's because they really are great for details. I have the rectangular one and then the small round one. And over here I've just got some refills for both of these as well because these are refillable, which is great. They work kind of like a mechanical pencil where you just push out the eraser as needed. Next, let's talk about sharpeners. So I've had a few over the years, and of course these are not all the sharpeners I've ever had, but I've gotten rid of quite a few as well, especially when I moved. I want to start with this one because I've had this one the longest. This is the Derwent Super Point. Yes, it is all dusty right now because I haven't used it. So this pencil sharpener is talked about a lot and pretty highly regarded in the art community. The only thing is that it tends to eat up your pencils extremely fast because when you use it, your pencils are going to get a really, really long point, kind of like this or even longer than this sometimes, which ends up wasting a lot of the pencils. Now, they are really handy to use, so it's not that it's a bad sharpener. It's just that I felt like I was replacing my pencils way too much when I was using this sharpener, and that isn't good, especially with expensive colored pencils like the ones a lot of artists own. So I've kind of retired this pencil sharpener. I'm not getting rid of it. It's not a bad sharpener, but just be aware of that specific issue. If you do like to use this sharpener, it really tends to eat up pencils, but you will get a very, very strong point. Now, some other sharpeners that I actually do use a lot, these are really basic T-Gall, is that even how you say it? Yeah, T-Gall pencil sharpeners. These are rotational. This one's so dirty, I'm sorry you guys. But as you can see, there's different numbers here. So if you set it to a 1, your point is going to be really short, but still pointy. And then if you set it all the way up to like 4 or 5, you're going to get a longer point, like the ones that the Derwent Super Point would give you. So this is really great if you want to sharpen your pencil to a point, but you don't want it to waste too much of the pencil. And yes, you will still get a really sharp result with this. Now, some downsides to this, there's only one hole here, and you obviously will not be able to fit bigger pencils into that. So they work for Faber-Castell, Prismacolor, but Derwent and Luminance, not so much. I do have a couple of these though hidden away in my drawer just in case the blade gets dull. I've also got some of these basic red sharpeners. So we have the Paisler one, which is a sharper blade, so I've been using that one. I've also got the General's one. This blade is completely dull though, so I need to replace that one, and the Stabilo one, which I think has also been dulled out as well. These are best for pastel and charcoal pencils, but they really can do a number on your hands as you're using them, which is why I like to avoid using these unless I have to. But charcoal and pastel pencils do tend to dull out the blade, and they need a slightly different sharpener than normal pencils as well because it's very easy to break charcoal or pastel since they are fragile. So I just will use something like this for that to sharpen those, even though it does kind of create hand cramps after a while. Finally, my favorite sharpener right now is the Faber-Castell Trio Grip. What I really like about this is it has 2 separate or 3 separate holes here. A bigger one so you can fit your Luminance and Derwents and bigger pencils into that one. A smaller one which I use for graphite And then this one on the other side is the color one, so it's meant for the colored pencils. You can use that for polychromos, and Prismacolors fit into those as well. Again, the bigger pencils I just use this one for, and I use this one for graphite, and that way they don't all become contaminated. It's nice and easy, and I have an extra one of these in my drawer as well if the blades dull out in this one, but I really do recommend this sharpener. Now we're getting to the good parts. This is where it gets a bit more exciting. I've got my graphite and charcoal supplies, so I'm going to save this big one for last because it has a lot in there. But starting off small here, I've got this water-soluble graphite, the Art Graph, almost like putty. It looks like a kneaded eraser, and this is very messy, so I did make a video on this when I first received it, but besides that I haven't pulled it out to use it again because I don't really have a great art space for working with messy media. Don't want to make a big mess. I think I'd like to have a more dedicated space to things like this if I was going to work with messy media more often, and that is the same reason why I don't use these. It's a metal tin, and inside of here I have got, behold, my charcoal sticks, charcoal blocks, things like that, a couple of graphite sticks also, a white charcoal stick. All of these are incredibly messy, hence why I keep them in this metal tin so that the powder doesn't get anywhere. I don't know how else I would store this, to be honest. The metal tin keeps them safe from breakage, but also it contains the mess of all of the powder as well. It's good to have these, and sometimes these have come with random sets that I've ordered, but all in all, I don't use them very often. They're always good to have on hand, I would say. Next, we've got two of my Cretacolor sets. The oil pencil set, and I think these are kind of like a monochrome set, and then the monolith graphite set. I did make a video where I talked about these, swatched them, made artwork with them, so if you do want to know more about these, I have a video dedicated to that. This is the monochrome set. It comes with the normal Cretacolor oil, charcoal, and then a couple of other ones like white, sepia, and a couple other colors here. I think a couple variations of sepia. So again, it is monochrome, but I haven't really used these since I first got them either. I've honestly not been so great about using things like graphite and charcoal lately. My last artwork was in charcoal actually, so I'm getting better. Okay, I've also got the monolith graphite set, and these I haven't used either, but I did really like them when I used them. Cretacolor, as you guys know, is one of my favorite companies, and I'm just excited to try anything that is Cretacolor. I say they're my favorite company based on just a couple of products, which is funny, but I don't know why. I just have an obsession with Cretacolor. Next, we've got my Faber-Castell Pitt Graphite Matte Pencils. I keep these separate from the regular graphite pencils because I just figure it's nice to keep them in their own tin. Since I have the tin, I might as well keep them nice in here. So I have that, and then I've got this giant pouch from Typo. Now this is perfect because it holds all my graphite and all my charcoal in separate zippers. So in the first zipper here, I've got my regular Derwent and Faber-Castell graphite pencils. Now the thing is, you know, I thought I had water-soluble graphite somewhere in here. There's some Daler ones down there. Oh, there it is. I've also got my Faber-Castell Graphite Aquarelle, which are the water-soluble graphite pencils as well. So those are sitting in there somewhere. The rest of them are at the bottom of the bag. That's the nice thing about the pouches. Things won't get lost. I know they're in there. It's a little hard to find them, but they're in there. I've got my jumbo graphite pencils. Those are so fun to use. I absolutely love using those. And then, as I said before, just my Derwent and my Faber-Castell graphite. So these are the Faber-Castell 9000, and then these are the Derwent Graphic. I used to have more graphite pencils. I did give them away because I don't use them enough. That's the thing. I like trying them out for the channel, but I don't use them enough. Next zipper, I have all my charcoal stuff. So the Paisler White Charcoal, which I tried out in another video. They sent these to me kindly. Thank you, Paisler. Again, I really like them. Then my Cretacolor oil pencils. So these are actually the same as some of the ones in this oil pencil pocket set, because this one does include a couple of black ones. So that's great. But I decided to just keep this set in its own little tin to keep it nice and organized, because a lot of the pencils that I'm showing you from here, I don't actually have the tins anymore. Way deep in there, I have the General's charcoal pencils as well. Those are a classic. And I think I might have a couple of random charcoal pencils I don't know, maybe I should try to dig in here. I feel like this is kind of like a magic pouch. Anything you can find in here. Oh, there's some Faber-Castell Pit charcoals, so some random various charcoal pencils. But the important thing is that they all stay nice in this pouch, and that way I won't lose them. They might get lost deep inside the pouch, but I know I'm not going to lose them by having them sit around loose in my desk. Third zipper. You guys might remember this from when I did my organization video, if you watched that one. That must have been a few months ago by now. And this one is even harder to dig into, but these have my carbon pencils. So I have a couple different carbon pencils. Wolf's Carbon, which I really like this one. This is a General's Layout extra black pencil, so that was just a random one I stuck in there. And then way down there, there's the Conte Paris pencils. Those I really liked. I made a video talking about those as well. A lot of the supplies that you guys see in this video, if I got them within the last few years, I would have made a video about them, and some of the supplies I've had for longer I've made reviews on. So you can really look through my channel if you are curious about specific supplies, because I do have a lot of videos that regard those. Okay, back in the drawer you all go. Actually, before I put anything back in that drawer, I need to show you guys what else is in that drawer, and that would be my fine liners. And boy, do I have a lot of them. I also included this because it's just a random set of Faber-Castell soft brushes. So these are just grays, and I think there's maybe one blue in there as well. So that was just a random set I've had for a while, and I've used it in my Inktober videos in the past. And then you can just see I've got a million of these, you guys. So most of these are Faber-Castell or Microns. I've also got this random Staedtler one as well. I even have an Artist's Loft one. I've got a couple of markers sitting in here, black ones, Copic, and then the Blick Studio markers. So all of these are pretty much black. I've got a couple of reds and browns as well, but the majority of them are black, and some of these probably need to be gone through and thrown away because they might actually be out of ink by now. I'm not sure. I've had these for a while, but this is basically my entire collection. Of course, I've also got a gel pen here. Maybe this would be a good time to talk about gel pens. So the gel pens that I have are these Jelly Roll ones that everybody has, and also these Signo Uniball. Yes, Signo Uniball pens, which I really do like these as well, but the only problem with gel pens is that they aren't archival. So if you're using them in your artwork, which I do a lot because I'm lazy, they can scratch off pretty easily. I think Micron is generally the favorite for fine liners, and I do have a couple of different sizes here. These are always good to have in handy, especially for Inktober, which I'm not sure I'm actually going to do this year. Moving on, we're going to talk about watercolor. I don't have a whole lot in the way of watercolor. I have my original Cotman set. It's an absolute mess. Some of you guys have seen this before, but this is very embarrassing. Ready? Oh, it's so awful. It's just so awful. I don't know how I let it get this bad, you guys. Like, how? How did it get so bad? So obviously these are half pans, and there's actually quite a lot of colors. Goodness, I don't even know. So this is just, it should be displayed maybe at a museum at this point. So those are my Winsor and Newton Cotmans. And next we've got the watercolors I currently use today. My first professional set. By the way, the Cotmans are really good for a artist set, but the Sennelier Professional Aquarelles that I recently bought. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a messy palette, but all in all, it's much cleaner than my Cotmans. Goodness gracious. Cotmans were just a total mess, except I've got this little paper towel here. So there you guys could see my 48 set here. So I don't use the Cotmans anymore. I now pretty much just use these. Honestly, they're expensive and I feel like I need to use them and have this be my main set. I don't have any other sets really, and I think this is enough. It's a lot of colors. I feel satisfied with it, and I really, really love how beautiful these colors are and how they lay down and layer. So I do recommend this set. I know it's just me talking at this point because most of you guys who watch my channel regularly know that this is the set that I use. I've also got my palettes here. This one needs to be cleaned. Nothing fancy really, just these plastic trays. Next we've got my brushes. So here's the thing, you guys. All of my brushes are in one spot because I love this jar. I think it's the best jar for brushes. It's such a nice blue mason jar. And some of these are actually meant to be for acrylics, like for instance, this one back here. And so since some of these are actually acrylic brushes and I don't really use acrylic paint, I just kind of keep them in here. You could see that they're not used. I don't even have acrylic paints at this time. I use them at work, but not at home, and they are quite messy in comparison to watercolor, so I think I'm going to keep it that way. All of these other brushes here I do use for watercolor. However, I mostly use my water brushes for watercolor pencil. And then I bought this set of squirrel hair brushes that I really love, and these are just on Amazon. I also bought this larger Princeton Neptune brush as well because I didn't have a big enough brush, so that's a size 14. And then these are the squirrel hair brushes that I got from Amazon, and I've talked about these before as well, and these are currently pretty much all that I use for watercolor. Although I do have a couple of like flat wash brushes and this one as well, so I have a couple variations, different ones that you can get different effects with, and a fan brush. I have at least one. There's my fan brush. But most of these brushes here I'm just keeping for maybe future use because they're meant to be used with acrylics. So no, I don't have any fancy brushes at this point in time, like silver black velvet or anything like that. I've also just got these 2 cups that I use for water. Of course, you want to have one clean, one dirty one, so you don't have to change out your water too much. Then I've got some washi tape, which comes in handy to tape off the edges, and some white gouache. Now I know this is not technically watercolor supplies, but these are some things I use with my watercolors, so I thought I would show these in this segment of the video. So white gouache for the details. I've also got some Winsor & Newton inks, Black Indian and white. And so these can also be used on top of watercolor as well, but also just on their own. However, I feel like I would pretty much mostly use them with watercolor, so I might as well show you guys these in the same portion of this video. Since we're on the subject of watercolor, let's talk about watercolor pencils. I have 2 sets of watercolor pencils at the moment. One set I have in this typo bag. If you guys can't tell, I love typo. I think their pouches are perfect for art supplies. I have the 60 set of Albrecht Dürers. I like to keep my Arteza water brush in here with them in case I want to grab this pack and take it with me somewhere. But I have all 60 of them in here, and they fit perfectly into this nice little pouch. And I think it's absolutely perfect for watercolor pencils. I love the Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer, you guys. If you watch my channel, you've been watching for a while, you know how much I love these. You can really just build on them and they layer so beautifully, and the colors are just absolutely gorgeous. So do I recommend these? Of course I recommend these. Before I tried these, I actually had only tried like the student grade watercolor pencils, and I had not the Faber-Castell ones, but other brands, and the Prismacolors, and I absolutely did not like those at all. So they put a bad taste in my mouth in regards to watercolor pencils, but once I tried these, I absolutely loved them, and they were a game changer for me. Now, my most recent set that I acquired is the Caran d'Ache Museum Aquarelles. This is a smaller set than the Faber-Castell set. However, there are so many beautiful colors. I am not very graceful with opening these boxes and showing you guys on camera, but there are so many beautiful colors. I intend to keep them in their packaging because the Caran d'Ache packaging is just gorgeous. Faber-Castell packaging is alright, but you know, they just come in regular tins. So I don't think I'll ever take out my Caran d'Ache pencils to keep in some sort of pouch or pencil case because the packaging is just way too gorgeous. The only thing I might do in the future, if I had room, is to display them in actual like mugs or jars so that they're easier to reach. But I'm always going to keep these boxes because of how gorgeous they are. So enough talking about the boxes. The pencils themselves are really nice, high quality, absolutely love them, and a bit more opaque, or maybe they're just a little bit more vibrant than the Albrecht Dürers, which means they work nicely together. And it's nice to have more than one watercolor pencil set since I've had the Faber-Castell for so long. And while we're on the subject of paint, let's go ahead and look at my acrylic paint markers and pens. So I mentioned before that I don't have any acrylic paint at the moment, you guys. Maybe somewhere, stored somewhere, there's some cheap tubes of acrylics that I could use. However, I don't really have any at my desk right now and I don't use it, but I do have some acrylic paint pens and markers that I like to use for crafts. These are by Artistro. These are really fun because you can really use these on anything, like rocks and ceramics and just pretty much anything. You can even use them on wood, which is what I did and made coasters the other day. I've got the pens as well, but I don't like these quite as much because I'll show you guys the point is rather thin and it can be really hard to shake these and get the paint to actually come out. Now I do store these horizontally. I think that helps. I know that with alcohol markers it helps, but storing them horizontally should keep the paint from just going all the way to one side and getting stuck like that. But I don't know. I don't use the pens very much, and I do like to use the markers every once in a while, especially around the holidays when I get to making crafty things. While we are on the subject of watercolor, I really should show you guys my metallics. I was going to save metallics for its own section, but I think I'm just going to include them in the regular section. So I've got my metallic watercolor paints by Graby. These are all out of order because the pans actually are removable and they fell out, and I was storing it vertically when I really should have been storing it horizontally, so lesson learned there. I've also got some sponge brushes and random sponges that you can use to create effects for watercolor. So I thought I would show you guys that, to just keep these underneath my desk on the little ledge. And since these don't fit in my drawer, I'm also going to keep these horizontal. But as you can see, you have to be really careful because, oh my gosh, these do come out. We're going to move on to colored pencils momentarily, but first I thought I would show you this. I dug this out of the closet. This is my little bag of things that I sometimes bring to work. Okay, so what we have here are some Daler-Rowney paints. Got just a few of these watercolor paints. A lot of them are actually a bit empty as well. Like, I had a couple blue ones, but I completely ran out of those ones. And then, you know, I've got a couple of earthy tones and things like that. I've also got a few watercolor pencils. So just a few basic primary colors here, as you guys can see. And then, of course, there is also a green. And then these are my old sketching pencils, so these can come in handy as well. You can always use graphite pencils. And this is a little bag I sometimes bring to work for some of the older kids. I don't really count these as part of my art supply collection anymore since I don't use them for myself, but I do have them. Next on the list are pastels. Now, I have a couple of different pastels, including some student grade things like the Junior Artist famous oil pastels that everybody knows about, has used when they were younger in school, or owns these, honestly. So these are oil pastels that pretty much everyone has heard of before. Then we've got the Faber-Castell 24 set of soft pastels. These soft pastels are a little bit, I don't want to say messier because oil pastels are very messy, but these are dusty. And so especially as somebody who might have allergies, lung issues, anything like that, you want to be careful, any sensitivities really, about breathing things like this in. I don't have an issue with the oil pastels, but the soft pastels, because they are powdery, can be a bit of a problem. But I do have these. These are technically the student grade as well. And then my favorite are my pastel pencils. I've got 2 whole sets. Oh no, they are dusty and they are not the right position. So ignore all that dust. I haven't used them in quite a while. I've got my Stabilo Carbothellos. These are soft pastels. And so when I say soft, I really do mean soft. There's 2 layers and they're somewhat well used, as you guys can see. A couple of them are super well used, and oh my gosh, I just got a whiff of all that dust in my face. So you do have to be careful about ventilation. This one is an example of what I meant by the Derwent Super Point Sharpener, sometimes wasting too much of the pencil, but I would like to mention that it actually does work for pastel, which is awesome because not all sharpeners work for pastel pencils. Getting so dusty right now. Next we've got my Faber-Castell Pit Pastels, and I'm going through these pretty fast because I know there's so much the video is going to be long anyways, by the way, you guys, so I'm sorry if I'm rushing through some of these. These are slightly harder than the Stabilo Carbothellos. That's what these look like. I think they're gorgeous, but they're still soft enough to blend. I really love this set. I think they complement the Stabilo Carbothellos really, really well. And so when I use pastels, it's most likely that I'm using these, my pastel pencils, rather than actual pastel sticks, because I don't own actually any professional or artist grade pastel sticks, but I know a lot of people love to use these ones, and I've used it in a previous video actually. If you would like to go watch that, you will find me talking more in depth about these, and I made a video a few months back talking about pastel pencils as well. But I do have some more video ideas that I could do with them. I just have to be careful because certain times of the year I seem more susceptible to allergies and things like that. We're getting to the end here, folks, so I'm going to go through now my colored pencils, and we're going to do this kind of briefly since I made a whole other video talking more in depth about my colored pencil collection and specifically talked about pencils. So I talked about watercolor pencils and pastel pencils also in that video, and if you'd like to see me talk more in depth about the sets I have, go ahead and check out that video. So let's just go briefly through it. I have Prismas, which I don't use. You don't really see me using them, but I used to use them a lot when I first purchased them and when I was younger. And actually I received them as a gift, but I purchased a lot more to expand my set. It's not that I don't like them, it's just that I like my other sets better now, and these are very specific in the way that they work, and I'm not really as much of a fan anymore. However, I still am going to keep this set and perhaps bring them to work sometimes so that some of the older kids can use Prismas, since they are really great for blending. Next, we've got my Polychromos and other various miscellaneous pencils. The Polychromos, I now have the complete 120 set, I think, maybe minus a couple of colors. And so I've built that up over time. I really did, because I started with a 24 set and just bought them open stock from there, you guys. So that was a lot of fun, but over the years I've really built up my collection of these, and they have become my favorite colored pencil to work with. As you can see, I also have some other pencils in this case. These pencil cases were a gift from my mom years ago. I think she might have got them from Amazon, in case you were wondering. Over here I've got my Derwent metallics, and speaking of metallics, I wanted to just throw this in there. I've also got this little set from Amazon my friend gave to me because she wanted me to compare these to like artist grade metallics. As soon as I buy some more colored metallics from the Derwent set, since these are classic colors like silver and graphite and gold, if I want to buy more colors I could use these to compare the Amazon set to a more artist grade set. And then over here, just some random miscellaneous pencils I talked about more in my other video, a couple of Holbeins. These are some extra luminance Pro Colors, Color Soft, and Light Fast, all by Derwent. Then a couple of the extra large Cretacolors, so I want to try more of these. Next we have my Caran d'Ache Pablos. These are a bit newer as well. I love Caran d'Ache packaging no matter what it is. The luminance, of course, are packaged the best, but these are much better than most trays that colored pencils come in. These come in metal tins, plastic trays on the inside, and they have sheets between them to work as protection between layers, and then you can lift them with the handle. So there's 3 layers. This is the complete set, I believe. And oh my gosh, you guys, these are gorgeous. The color range is just gorgeous. I absolutely love them, and I think they would be especially amazing for colorists as well because of this intense color range. And there's a lot more brighter colors in comparison to the luminance. Oops, I missed one of the sheets here of foam to protect the layers. If you want to see me talk more in depth about these, I have an unboxing video about them. Next we have the Caran d'Ache Luminance colored pencils. These are also one of my favorites. I have the original 76 set here. So there's that. I'm trying to position this so that you guys can see better on camera. So there's the original 76 set. There's 3 layers. This is probably the best set for creating portraits, or animal portraits even. I mean, actually, I would say human portraits especially, because of all of the natural colors and tones that you're able to get, and these are great for skin tones as well. So I absolutely love these, and they're very light fast, of course, as you probably know. Then I went ahead and bought the portrait assortment when that came out, plus the 4 extra. And I don't know why one is missing. That actually bothers me. I think I must have used it, and maybe it's in the jar on my desk or somewhere else or something, but that is quite annoying. So this is the portrait set. I'm not sure if the colors are the right ones to go in this box, but unfortunately I don't have a 100 set box I don't have a box that would fit all 100 colors in it, so I have to keep them separate, which is a bit triggering for me. Next, my Derwent drawing pencils. I absolutely love these, you guys. They are just so lovely to work with. My Derwent drawing pencils are probably my favorite Derwents that I've tried. No, I don't own the Lightfast. Yes, I have my eye on them. Will I buy them anytime soon? Not sure. I do have enough art supplies at the moment, but I am tempted. I will tell you guys that. So again, I've got lots of videos talking about these, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But I really do recommend those. And they have really nice natural colors. And finally, the Holbeins. I've got the 12 pastel set. You guys, look how beautiful they are. Do I plan on purchasing more Holbeins? I'm not sure. I think that I would like to get more pastel colors eventually. At the same time, they are so expensive. I live in the US. To obtain them in the US is easier now than it used to be. They're now selling them at Blick, but they are ultra crazy expensive. I haven't checked the website anytime recently to see if that's changed, but I know that these are a bit harder to get. I think they're easier to get in Japan and maybe a couple other countries nearby Japan, but I know that in the West they are a lot more difficult to get. One more category, markers. I don't have very many of these, I just have one big set. These are the Blick Studio alcohol markers. They have a brush pen on one side, a brush nib on one side, and then on the other side it's a chisel nib. And I haven't used these recently, but they are actually really good at blending. And I think they are an impressive dupe to Copics, but of course there's a lot of advantages that Copics do have. Markers are just very expensive, if I'm being honest, and that's why I've never gotten too much into them, but of course I do have a set that I can use in case I would like to. I store these not vertically, but horizontally now, which is the way you're supposed to store them, but not the way I've always stored them. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad. Thankfully, a lot of you guys had commented and told me to store them horizontally rather than vertically, and thank goodness that you did, because I figured out how to do that in my drawer that I keep these in. Please ignore this whole setup thing. I don't usually film in this corner anymore because I have so much more in terms of equipment on my desk that the background is not so great. But I just wanted to film a little outro for you guys and let you know that I had to split this video into 2 parts because I wanted to include all of my papers in this video. However, the video already got to be like over 30 minutes long and I didn't want to make it any longer than it is. So I'm going to talk about all the papers that I actually own in another separate video. I'll just call it part 2 or something like that. I hope that today's video wasn't too long and that you enjoyed looking at all of my art supplies. If you do remember me using a supply that I didn't mention in the video, it could be something that I gave away because I did a giveaway not too long ago, or that I gave to a friend or something like that, which happens sometimes. And I didn't include the stuff that is in my little giveaway pile right now for future giveaways either. So I included all of my art supplies that I do have stored in my desk area. Thank you so much for watching today's video. As always, don't forget to subscribe if you are new here and want to check out some of my other content. And don't forget to leave a comment down below if you'd like to as well. I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!